Welcome to the Obojima Podcast. My name is Jeremiah, and I am with Ari and Adam, and we are the writers of Obojima. This is our weekly writers meeting where we get together and we just talk about something. We talk about it, we get good ideas going, and then we put it in the book. And today we are doing the final subclass before the book is released. That's right. This is the last subclass we have to make before we can call it done. Well, yeah, or something like that. And it's a fighter subclass. It is the most blanketed I can assign anything to this class subclass, which is probably when I was writing this, when we were making subclasses, I was like, this has to be our easiest one, right? And it is
fighters
not.
are the hardest.
I think the issue with the fighter subclass is because you can assign anything to it, you can just as easily say, well, why isn't this a rogue, or why isn't this a bard, or why isn't this so you really have to hone in on what makes this special. And so today you'll be watching us create this fighter subclass
from the hardest stone imaginable.
And we need to start with what is the idea, because we really do not have an idea right now. And we were talking a little bit off of the podcast about what this could look like. And I think the thing we want to start with is the flavor, the most Obojima thing we can think of. Like, what is the core flavor from Obojima that we want to pull and bring into a subclass? And why fighter specifically? So we have to convince ourselves that this is a good fighter thing. Now, I will say there's an honorable mention here, which was a fan idea that we're not going to go with because we put it up as a voting system, and we ended up going with the Way of the Dragon Shepherd Monk, Dragon Shepherd, who does sheep dragon cool maneuvers and things like that. But an honorable mention was the Firecracker fighter that uses Firecracker-like moves and potentially firecrackers in the creation of their attacks to do dazzling, spectacular things. We are not doing that, but I do want to shout out to the handful of people that came up with that idea. So with that being said, let's jump into it, and let's start with what are some cool concepts that we can jump into from Obojima. What is a Obojiman style of fighting, or an Obojiman thing that is important to them? We there's a lot to go off of here.
Yeah, I mean, Obojimas like to have a good time, and they're, I think of like Drunken Master, like that. If you imagine, I don't know traditionally where that has come from, but it's like the idea that, having your body loose and being able to strike from any kind of position has an advantage. So probably Drunken Master evolved out of that, watching a drunk person move and just being what if they could strike from they look unbalanced and you'd think, oh, I'm going to punch him now, but then they can hit you from that position. But Obojimas like to have a good time. They're like festivals. Maybe there's some kind of fun, or capoeira, like it's like a dance. It's like this dancing move.
I swear, if we go with a dancing fighter, I suggested a dancing fighter a long time ago, and Ari said I was dumb. Ari said, you stink, Jeremiah.
What? I would never.
Ari said, why isn't this a bard? And I said, I don't know, fighter.
Well, I will defend my bard assertion in that bards are performative. It doesn't mean that fighters can't. Just like an archer's usually a ranger, but a fighter can also pick up a bow.
Apparently, I have triggered a feud that I didn't know existed. I forgot this one. Oh man,
this is a conversation. It was not as aggressive. Ari was very kind about it. But that being said, I also had a similar idea, and let's hear more about it.
Well, you guys do whatever you want.
Well, the idea that, okay, if it's Obojiman flavored, then it's got it. Maybe there's a part of that that's fun and lighthearted, but it's come out of that. There is a martial application to something that appears on the surface to be, like a drunken master, like you're out having a good time and you're partying, and then wham, here you go. Or that you're, capoeira, like it appears like you're doing some kind of, dance move, and then all of a sudden, no, that's how you train to do this, like, really devastating kick or, punches and stuff like that. So you're building up centripetal force, and, you're using that to deliver a blow. So
that idea, like if it wasn't magic based, like, inspiring your allies and stuff like that, and it was more about coming at it from like a place of keeping your enemies like uncertain about where you're going to attack from, like that makes a lot of sense to me, like, or at least that I think that could work in like through the fighter filter as opposed to the bard filter.
So on that, the concept I had started with the dancing was kind of like this rhythmic pattern dance that they produce, where like a fighter, like the concept that the mechanic I was building along with it, because they're very like big picture story elemented, and I'm just like so stuck on mechanics when it comes to stuff like this. And so I thought of the mechanic before I thought of the idea. And the idea was like, what if a fighter starts off a battle at like 4 beats per minute? I don't know enough about music, although we are making an album, so you'd assume I'd know more at this point. But it's like, it's like 4 measures, right? Like boom, boom, boom. And as they continue, they can switch the speed at which their feet tap or their dances move. So they're going from like 4 beats per round to 16 beats, and all of a sudden their dances become more sporadic and active, and so they're changing their fighting style along with how quickly their beats change. And you could have it be a progressive thing where like every round it goes up a measure of 4, so it starts at 4 to 8 to 16 to 32 in a sense, where like you're kind of like changing your rhythmic style of dancing, and that changes how you fight with the sword or something like that. But I don't know. That's where it went. It fizzled out after that. I got this reaction, and then we didn't talk about it again.
Well, I think to Ari's point, it's finding the right flavor on top of that, because I think if it mechanically works and it's mechanically fun, then it's just a matter of putting the flavor over the top of it. So the idea that you go into like a battle and you're like moonwalking in there, that might not be as cool as like, say, I don't know, like applying something like a drunken master or a capoeira, where you can see capoeira in action and you can notice like, whoa, if I got hit with a kick, like I would be sent through a wall.
Sure.
So
I think
it's just finding the right flavor for it.
For that, with the dancing, if we did go with a dancing maneuver, which is cool, right? Because festivals are a huge part of Obojima. And especially with the spells, and we now have 2 spells oriented around festivals with Festival King and Festival Feast. And we built a lot of festivals into locations and things like that. This is cool. I like this. I like the direction we're heading in here. Not to say everything should be battle mastery, but you could have a collection of festival moves.
I mean, what if it's a festival to, like, I know we don't have gods in Obojima, but what if there's a like some kind of elder spirit where it's like, or a Nakadama, like a legendary Nakadama that was known for like a certain kind of brawling or a certain kind of, feats of strength, and that this particular fighter is sort of emulating that. Like if it's like take for example, like I am sort of doing the sacred dance of Beowulf, or I'm doing the sacred dance of Gilgamesh, and I'm wrestling in Kaido, and these are the different chokeholds that I had, and this is how Gilgamesh took down this other thing, or I'm Hercules.
It's almost like retelling stories.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I just want to point out, like, one thing to keep in mind as we're doing the subclass is that they're always going to have the class features as well, right? Like the base class features. So even if we're not going to skew like full on, like this is the most martial of the fighter classes, the fighter still gets a fighting style. They still get, I guess the martial archetype is that thing, but really they get their fighting style. So like archery, defense, dueling, great weapon fighting, protection, 2-weapon fighting are all things like whatever we're doing has to accommodate those things, so they don't feel like those are wasted. If I choose fighter, like it should still be meaningful to me if I want to go down this path. But I really like that idea. There's kind of a theatrical quality to it, where it's like your moves are retellings of, like you're saying, Hercules. So it's like if you're fighting a bunch of opponents, it was like Hercules fighting the Hydra and stuff that, right? Like, so it's like this kind of thing.
Is it too similar to our theater bard, who is reimagining characters through masks?
Yes, it is
stories?
Exactly. It is very similar to that. I'd forgotten
similar.
about it.
Yeah. So I like that though. I like the
Still a cool idea.
Still a cool idea. But I think the funny thing is that out of all the things, our fighter keeps on going, why isn't this a bard?
Yeah.
Of things. But I think that maybe is just a show of what's important to Obojimans. It's celebration, it's dance, it's things like that.
And I think it's okay here. But go ahead.
No. Another thing that feels very Obojima, and I don't have a fighter attached to this, but just like an action that is very Obojima, is travel. Right? Like this idea of traveling roads. We have the courier brigade and things like that. So there's this whole idea of
a lot of movement.
Yeah.
And I think
know what that means.
And I think it's okay that when you're playing an Obojima adventure, that your fighters and your bards are kind of blending together a bit. This is sort of the world where you're not going to have your death dealer,
Right.
Like typically in D&D, that's your fighter. Like, how does this fighter deal death at scale? So, but here it's going to be a different kind of thing. So I think it's okay that, you might be like, this could kind of really be a bard. And it's like, yeah. And in D&D, sure. But in Obojima, like it's, you don't have that same kind of edge, to it. It's more, your classes are going to be more softer, celebratory, fun, whimsical. They're going to have that kind of vibe to it. I think it's okay if we do a fighter that feels bardish to some degree.
This is of all the classes to assign, non-combat abilities to. Fighters always been the hardest, right? It's in the name. It's what they do.
Yeah.
Right. So there's no matter what we pick when it comes to this fighter, I think there's going to be an amount of people who are potentially even listening to the podcast who are going to be disappointed with that they are not as proficient in combat as other fighters. And that is just something that we're okay with, but you'll have to come to terms with if you're listening to this and I'm not upset with it.
I mean, so like looking at like some of the things, the inspiration for Obojima, right? If you're looking at even like Legend of Zelda or, we talk about Princess Mononoke or Avatar, like Sokka is a fighter, Link would be a fighter, Ashitaka is a fighter, all of those things would still feel in line with Obojima.
Yeah.
Now the question is, like, is that a unique subclass, or is that
they feel very standard fighter to me, all of them. Link, for example, I think is a very multifaceted character, for not saying anything. Where he is a sword duelist and a archer and a skilled strong man and animal handling, like skilled with horses and
climb
plays instruments and has an amount of charisma, even though again we can't talk to them. He always seems to be loved no matter where he goes, right? Like we can't hear what he's saying, but it has to be awesome.
He just goes,
and everyone's like, oh, you're so crazy. Like he's the epitome, he is a folk hero into the full core of what D&D imagines a folk hero, right? Where you walk around town and you're very accepted and you're going to go and save the world and you're the chosen one.
So the point of clarification then, just for, even for myself, I have to readjust, and even for, the audience, is that the idea is we're doing a fighter subclass. It doesn't mean that all fighters are that subclass.
No.
It means like this is just a uniquely Obojima flavored one. That is one of the types of fighters you might find here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that
I got a little myopic there in my own thinking.
I mean, it bears repeating over and over again. Like, you don't have to. You can play whatever the heck you want but if you really want to play an Obojima experience, it's like then you've got to kind of buy into this like, okay, it's not about blood and guts. It's not about, cutting off heads and min-maxing, getting all the, it's about the story, and it's about the feeling and the vibe of it.
So go ahead, Ari.
I was just going to say, so last week I watched, or earlier this week rather, I watched Castle in the Sky, and it was playing in a theater, so I got to go watch it. And there's one of my favorite scenes in there where the pirates kind of chase the kids into the town, and there's this like strong guy, like
confrontation between the two buff guys.
The two buff guys. Yeah, and that's awesome to me. And I'm wondering if there's like
my shirt ripping off.
Yeah. If there is a, almost like the tavern brawler as a thing here.
Sure.
As a thing. So it's like celebration. Now I'm imagining like even a Nakudama tavern brawler, partying a little too hard and but able to fight that way. So, I mean, the Drunken Master is already like, it's a monk subclass, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But like, it's awesome. And I'm just wondering if there's like just straight up the tavern brawler.
Yeah.
And it's less like I have trained to be the tavern brawler. It's like you can fight and you tend to get in, tavern brawls. And that's kind of like your kind of rough and tumble quality of that.
So this lends itself to what you had stated earlier with Ari wrote this section in Tasha's that's like,
oh yeah,
how to utilize Battle Master and a handful of feats to play whatever you want, essentially.
Yeah, Battle Master is very versatile and covers pretty much all the bases for fighters.
It's like, oops.
So like, for example, I have Group Combatant here as a feat, which is one of the feats in here, which kind of like gives you the core of like tavern brawling, where you're like, you can take a punch on the chin, you can fight a bunch of people all at once, and you don't provoke opportunity attacks, so you can like dodge and get out of the way. Now it doesn't add like the I'm a little drunk.
Although you could be.
It doesn't require it.
The next feat is I'm a little drunk, and you just mix the two of them together.
I'm drunker and belligerent now. Now I want to fight everything.
Do I have a? I swear to God, I wrote a drunk feat.
I like that it's a feat, not a consequence.
That's right. I'm just making sure I'm not crazy.
Gain 20 hit points and you're immune to fear, It's like, oh.
Yeah, okay.
Highly suggestible.
Yeah, you can get hit with a club and just get up.
Ignore me, I did not write a feat. I think I've maybe thought about writing a feat a handful of times. When there's like a handful, we're getting way off topic. When there's like you've heard skill sets where people learn how to play the piano or speak Mandarin when they're drunk, but then they don't remember how to do it when they're sober.
Oh my gosh.
But the moment they become drunk, they can do that thing again.
Whoa.
So it'd be funny to have like a set of skills that you can only access while like really wasted. So it's like, oh yeah, you are a proficient a thief and lockpick, but only when you've had like 6 shots.
When I'm drunk, I become like Louis Lightfingers.
Good old Louis Lightfingers.
Yeah, that's why their persona and lock skills. I become the cat burglar.
It reminds me. Oh, has anyone watched? What is it called? Broad City.
Mm-mm.
Oh my god, it's so funny. Oh my god, I'm looking at a room here. Everyone watch Broad City. It's very, very funny. One of the characters, Abby, like when she gets a little drunk, finds like her way down an alleyway into like an old jazz time bar, and she becomes a singer that everyone loves. And she's like got this weird persona, and her earring falls out, and it's a diamond. And she goes, "I love the taste of diamonds." She swallows it. You're like, what is going on right now? I'm sorry, we're so off the rails right now. It's so funny. Broad City's an amazing show. Yeah, I'm imagining this character like being a little crazy. Okay. That being said,
so
I like festivals. I like the drunk kind of like getting like inebriated and enjoyment and like a little tavern brawler. But let's list some of the other things, because I'm noticing we're going in a celebration route. Let's list some of the other things that are important to Obojimans that could potentially be applied to a fighter. And so like the first one that comes to my head is farming in some capacity, right? Like a farmer of some sort. You could imagine although it's a little weird, but like the agricultural, like I was a farmer for 15 years and then a bunch of howlers started attacking, got pretty good, and then someone invited me to this sword school, so I guess I'm an adventurer now.
I mean, what if like, you have a lot of things that farmers do, but they can all be applied to, it's like, I'm going to use my scythe skill, but it's like a trip attack, or I'm going to use like a lot of weapons came out of farming, like, Filipino machetes, like that all came out of, their farming technique. Like nunchucks was like threshing wheat and stuff. And like the kama was like for, cutting down.
Mostly it's just a lot of wheat, a lot of tall grasses.
A lot of like wheat, rice, whatever, barley, all that stuff came out of these farming tools. Yeah. So
there's something there.
It's
maybe not the most exciting thing. People are like, I can't wait to play the farmer subclass.
The farmer subclass.
To me, it's a question of like, what is that off? So if I'm playing a fighter and, I choose even battle master or whatever, champion, whatever it is, I could say like still my background was I was a farmer and then I learned to fight. Like what is that, like that technique suite that comes with it, and that it also tells that story,
right?
And a lot of it is like delivering on the expectation. Like when I hear, like Drunken Master, as an example of like the monk subclass, like, I can already conjure an image of the things I'm going to be doing as a Drunken Master, right? So if we could find something like that, then that's the sweet spot of just like kind of the story is there, because now I'm like, oh right, that's the thing I want to play, like that's the thing that's grabbing me here, and I'm trying to think of like, sorry, go ahead.
I was just like, like there's a thing with like they call it farmer strength, like farmers just. Yeah, I mean, it's like farmers are super strong, and like the idea that like there are these guys that can go out and get a steer and just like wrestle it to the ground. Like, so
that's cool.
Gloves of farmer strength.
Yeah, it's just like you can like throw hay bales. Like I was just like Michelangelo was like a blacksmith, and they said you could like take a horseshoe and just bend it with his bare hands. Like these dudes are just strong as heck. So it's like.
It's like Wayne from Letterkenny.
Yeah, it's just like people that can wrestle. Like maybe you gain advantage to all strength checks, or like you have a bonus to your strength, or
tireless.
Yeah, you can wrestle large things that are twice your, like you can wrestle large animals or like grapple them. Or large creatures.
Just a wrangler.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of things that I think we can, and I think one of the reasons that we're struggling here too in certain circumstances, I think there's a lot of things farmers do that we could very easily turn into mechanics and build out a subclass. I don't think anyone's going to care.
Yeah, you're right. You're right that like farmer is not like tasty as far as like fantasy fighter.
So what I'm saying though is I think one of the things that we're struggling with is we're coming up with concepts that are like physically a possibility, like a thing that you could physically do. And then we're going, why isn't it just a battle master, or why isn't this a monk? Essentially is where we keep on thinking. And then, so I think maybe some of the flavor and where we might have to end up landing is, how does a fighter who is magically altered do something? For example, a fighter who is made a pact, or who has been like a fighter, to harken back to the podcast episode, that wrestled and killed an elder spirit. Like Scale, who has lost an arm and is this, what is the action of killing a thing, or like gaining some magical power, having an imbuement of powers to you through some spiritual level or magical thing. And when I say spirit, I mean like not religious, but like spirit as in like spirits and Obojima.
Yeah.
So here's a cool thing. Like if you just said your fighter is spirit possessed.
Yeah.
You got possessed by an elder spirit somehow, and now you've got crazy powers.
Right. Is this the positive answer to the corrupted ranger?
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah. You could say so unlike a warlock who makes a pact with the spirit to gain these things, you could say a spirit was dying, like a dying spirit, and a part of it found respite inside of you.
Yeah.
And now you have some of its strength.
Or you could
this
say
is like the Green Lantern.
This is the Green Lantern.
Or you could say you were dying and you reached out and the spirit said, I can make your body live, but you've got to, take on some of my, you got to do,
Yeah, I think whatever it is, it can't, whatever we end up choosing, if we did that, it can't be connected to like this and now you do this thing
because
then it's warlock. So it has to be like
that's right.
But I like the saving thing. I like either you're dying or the spirit's dying.
Yeah.
And seeing the other person offers up a bit of themselves.
Yeah.
Like the spirit, you can live on through me, and like the spirit, like, because that's interesting. That's kind of cool. It kind of puts you in this kind of like half thing that's going on that like we kind of wanted the elf to fit into, where they're between two worlds, and this kind of takes that and puts it into a subclass. But that's not terrible.
I mean, that right there, I'm kind of intrigued as a player. Like, I'm like, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
I'm a spirit fighter. I'm possessed by this elder spirit. I have cool, powers that, like, I like that. That beats magical farmer. like
I like magic. I like farmer.
Well, I mean,
did you ever read the comic series Bone by Jeff Smith?
No.
Okay, I think we've talked about it before. Anyway, there's a character in there, Lucius, who's like this just like barrel-chested farmer, and they're like kind of the rat creatures who are the kind of the horde bad guys, and just Lucius can unload on these things, and he's got farmer strength.
I mean, I could play a farmer and have a good time.
You could, but I'm telling you
the
guys,
mass appeal.
The mass appeal.
We cannot do a farmer subclass.
It's not niche. It is
Cuts to a month later in the farmers of the book.
And it's like the biggest hit ever. Like, everybody loves it.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, because like Friar Tuck,
we have to get off of farmer, guys.
All right.
That being said, everyone should go and read Tolkien's Farmer Giles of Ham. It's a great book.
Also read Bone by Jeff Smith.
Yeah, and then come back, and then if you're on board with farmers, we'll put it in the book. Farmers are cool. We can't keep on going back to it. I think spirit, I'm trying to think of a word that would mean like something like a talisman or something that would take on a spirit or take on an entity. Like you could be the blah 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 spirit fighter, right? Like the
I mean, it could be a part of the subclass where you like say, I took on the spirit and now I'm either I have glowing eyes, or I've got tattoos, or I've got a talisman, or I've got,
We have to be careful though too, because the warlock, the Pact of the Lantern warlock, also takes on spirit-like features because of their connection. Now it's also, everyone who is yet to see the warlock, it has been a hassle because it's a complicated, warlocks are more complicated than I would have imagined. It takes a lot to make it not bad. But that being said, this is cool, but I think if we were to do it, we push away from like, I'm embodying the spirit and I have like, I can turn transparent and shift into the spirit realm and I can see things. I think it'd have to be like your attacks are empowered or certain things are empowered.
That's what I was going to say. So first I'm going to talk to that and then I want to make a plea.
Yes.
Okay. So first,
we're not doing farmers.
And not farmers. Okay. But the idea of taking the spirit, the slice of the spirit kind of pie that fighters could use is the idea of imbuing items or spirit energy into weapons. Like that's kind of cool. So like the things that they're wielding can become imbued and empowered, right? So that keeps it off that ranger, it keeps it off the warlock.
Yeah.
Right. Which are the closest things that to kind of running into the same mechanical space.
Yeah.
Here's my plea. Okay. It's not about farmers. Everybody shut up about farmers. All right. It is. This is on behalf of, I typically play characters. Again, this is me being selfish, and I assume that some number of people also play D&D in a similar fashion. But I like playing kind of the normie. Like I play lots of humans and dwarves, but lots of humans.
Yeah.
And I play a lot of human fighters. And one of the reasons I like that is because of I'm going to say this, it's going to sound negative, but the mundane quality of the fighter existing in a fantastical place is a story that I really like.
Yeah.
And I think there's some number of people who enjoy that. It's not the sexiest thing, but fighter's not the sexiest thing.
Farmers are.
Farmers are.
Oh, yeah, buddy.
But like, it's not splashy. It's not particularly splashy, but it's like, I just want to play a dude with a sword.
Yep. No, I feel that. I think that comes with our conversation earlier off podcast where we were talking about like being more comfortable with having a death, your character dying, the more you play D&D.
Yeah.
When you've existed in our space, ethereal beings of D&D who've played 1,000 characters, at a certain point in time, you're like, I just want to play a dude who's a fighter who can fight things with a sword.
And that's fair. Yeah. Like, I will fully acknowledge, and I'm immersed in this all the time. But that's to be fair. Like I've been drawn to that a lot. And again, I don't want to just speak just for myself. Or I'm sorry, I do only want to speak for myself. I don't want to put words in other people's mouths. But
I'm going to speak for all of you.
I speak for all of you, all D&D players. They all want
a fighter.
Yeah. No, there's a reason I think that like fighters are the most popular class.
Yep.
There's a simplicity. It's also we've talked about this before. When we're introducing people to Obojima. Obojima is a totally new setting for a lot of people, and so it's a cognitive load to keep an imaginary space in your head. Mm-hmm. And it's like, dude, I just want to play fighter. Yeah. I'm here to explore this awesome world. And granted, to what I said before, it's like you could still do that. Nothing's stopping you from just playing a champion fighter. But I do just want to, I'm not advocating for one thing or the other, but just sometimes it doesn't have to be super magical and everything like that. But
I agree.
Yeah.
I think in the design space, our options are magic at this point.
Okay.
Like basically we can, if we don't do that, we're either harkening on things that already exist, like Drunken Master or thing, or we are making a farmer subclass because everything else has been explored.
It's like an event horizon, I think, that we've crossed into with the farmer. Despite your resistance to it, it's gonna suck us in.
There's gonna be a groundswell, like, a demand for it.
Yeah, like on the Discord, there's just gonna be this like surge, and then the YouTube will just blow up, and it'll just be like, "We want the farmer."
I thought that was a mark for the off-camera Wilson, our videographer in the back, gave us like a solidarity for the farmer.
Yeah, like.
The idea of like farmer or no, the idea of somebody who's got the strength to like wrestle beast to the ground is really cool. And there's something really fun
surges
about that.
of strength, like a strength surge.
Almost like an action surge or a second wind.
No, not like those. That's about action economy.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the feats of strength.
Yes. Try to resist, Jeremiah.
He has 3 feet.
Your arguments fall like wheat before the scythe, I might say.
Oh my God. This is
That's a good name for an ability. Like wheat before the
scythe. Yes, now you see the power of the farmer.
To the spirit. Please, back to the spirit fighter. Okay, here's my thought process on the spirit fighter, which is magic addition to the fighter will allow us to produce unique effects that aren't specifically all like I'm just a standard person, because that is available if you want to play a standard person. Ari already said it. Battle Master Champion, a plethora of rogues and monks don't have magic attached to them, but considering Obojima is magic filled and is a magical place, I think we should probably attach some amount of magic to this. I think a spirit, like absorbing a spirit into you, is pretty interesting. A dying spirit is kind of cool. It feels very unique, and it also feels very Obojima. But if we didn't want to do that, I think there are other things that could, and I really, really, really don't want to do this, but there's also the option of like someone who does like tech in some capacity, like someone who's producing gadgets and things like that. But that it leans into artificer, which is just something that we're not really going to explore.
Yeah, it's out of balance.
But I do like the idea of you being able to like activate as this spirit thing, being able to activate technology as this fighter, as like a non-combat option where you can activate technology, kind of like the jolt spell essentially, because you have, some of the spirit energy inside of you. That's kind of cool.
Is there like, okay, we've said in the past, and this will be looks like a tangent, but it'll come back. it apparently like there's a connection between spirits and first stage technology.
There's
So
something.
there's something going on there, and we haven't really said so much what it is. But what if like with spirits spirits can whelm into first stage stuff. So imagine if you had like a first stage, like a baseball bat, like the spirit could whelm into that, and then you can
I didn't even think about first stage material.
Just
being
first
the
stage
thing.
materials.
I was always thinking about first stage tech. That's interesting because I could make a baseball bat that is not from the first stage, and that's different.
it's different. So like, or like a golf club, or like
So
something, it can become a weapon.
They have like equipment, like first stage tech on them that they are utilizing to take special actions and do special things. Having a baseball bat already feels so interesting.
Mhm.
I'm making Casey Jones the fighter in Obojima,
Oh, man.
right?
Gungala, gungala.
Yeah. Is that a Jose Canseco bat? Cricket. You got to know what a crumpet. Okay.
I'm just thinking of Happy Gilmore when he hits the golf club. Like it's like the running swing, and you just nail the thing like 1,000 yards.
How much more interesting is that now to have a fighter who maybe has like a handful of attacks that she can use, and she's like, I've got a cricket bat, I've got a baseball bat, and I've got a golf club, and like you're pulling them out and activating. It's just so interesting. And then like they have a tape measure that they like is attached to their belt, and they spin it out, and it does some special ability to tangle somebody or something like that.
So is the idea that all of those items, so baseball bat, golf club, whatever, cricket bat, all of those things are whelmed by spirits. That's kind of what
you're
going
moving the dead spirit that's coming to you, like you're moving it through, like you're symbiont with the spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
So the spirit whelms it, but you're just wielding it.
Yeah.
And the spirit will like affect your body. Like it might make you a bit stronger, or like you might have like a sense, ability to predict movements or something like that.
I want one of the abilities to, if you put it in your, I put the spirit energy into my baseball bat. Now it gets the Mjolnir ability to like return to my hand,
Which is super cool. Like
That's cool.
we
That's
could
super
make
cool.
a Eldritch Knight fighter, but good.
Oh,
Oh, right.
or you could kind of like
I'm sorry if one of you worked on that.
I don't know.
I
I don't remember.
I don't think I worked on
Okay,
Eldritch Fighter.
sweet.
No.
Okay. Good.
But we
Glad I'm
know
not-
the person who
I'm
did.
sure.
So
I'm insulting a
we'll
friend.
tell them. Or Ben. Probably.
I'm sorry. There's really cool parts of it. I think it's just a hard, not to, now I'm backtracking. I don't want to hurt Ben's feelings.
I don't know if it was Ben or not, but it might be.
But we could make an I think that's cool, like a Gish style fighter who's getting some of these abilities.
Or what if it's like Monkey Luffy in One Piece, where you can actually stretch your limbs and punch the heck out of somebody?
We've got a lot of things that are like that already.
Oh,
Yeah. The Belly Brewer actually has a similar ability where they can like the concoctions.
I haven't
like,
seen the
shipping.
latest iteration, so
It's okay.
Okay. Well, I feel. I think
It's actually a potion that you made. You made a potion that was like that, and I
Really?
took it out of the potion and just gave it to the Belly
Man,
Brewer.
it's all
It was a
a
long
blur to
time
me
ago
now.
now. Yeah.
I just want to make a.
I just want to make a farmer.
I want to make a 6-armed farmer. Can we make a multi-armed farmer?
Oh my gosh, we're
There's a table
all
of
over the
abilities you have to
place.
roll on.
We made 4. We talked about sword schools prior to this, and it broke us.
It did.
I really like this spirit fighter.
Yeah, this is
I think
fun.
this is really unique and interesting.
Yeah.
I think whelming. I think the we have to be careful though, because whatever this person can do is now kind of talking about how it is whatever this fighter can do now speaks to what spirits can do to objects.
That's right.
So it has to stay in this wheelhouse, or we have to say, pardon me.
I thought you were gonna like.
It was, I'm just to be honest, it was a burp, but I inverted it and then I lost my breath. So I went, stay in there.
What the spirit world right there.
I'm so sorry, everyone.
No, we are saying something about spirits though. And
we were saying something about spirits. So whatever we either need to say, this person is really abnormal, and like this elder spirit is unique, or this spirit inside them is unique, or this relationship with spirit and human allows them to affect these objects in a different manner, or we keep it very, very strictly like whatever this does, certain spirits can do this as well. Not all spirits, but certain spirits have access to this. So we just need to be aware of that when we're producing effects.
I like that it's like spirits are connected somehow to the first age. That's neat. And I think that being mysterious, like why that is, who knows? But
there might be something about like, an eternal quality to spirits can kind of bond with things the older they are. And so like the first stage stuff, material from the first stage, is just as it gets older and older and older, there's almost like this like permanence about it kind of thing. I don't know. Those are words.
No, there's something like, why is it that, a vending machine lands in Obojima and bang, there it is. And then, it takes a spirit to actually power it, And in this world, spirits are some kind of analog for electricity. Like we don't have electrical wires, we don't have electrical power stations.
But it's energy.
But it is energy.
Yeah.
And but it's like first age objects conduct spirit energy, like even a baseball bat conducts spirit energy. And it's not necessarily, doesn't have like a plug in the back of it or anything like that. It's just, but it does.
So does that mean, this is, in terms of like the practicality of playing something like this, obviously it's not designed yet, but if everything is channeled through first stage tech and I have this baseball bat and it's awesome, I'm enjoying it, and then a magical sword shows up and I'm a fighter, so I'm incentivized usually to pick up the sword. It's not first stage. And then, or the DM also has to know whether it's first stage or not. So things have to be designated as such. And if it's not, now I have to make this choice. Do I keep baseball bat because it's first stage, or do I take this +1 sword that was forged, or that I forged possibly at one of the schools?
Right. You're gonna forge a metal baseball bat at the
They
sword
exist.
school up in the.
Yeah, he's trying to teach you to forge a sword. It's like, look at this.
I think then that's when we create a Daraglyph that can turn something into a first stage object or something weird like that. Where if you do get a cool sword that you love and it's not a first stage and you don't get the bonus,
it makes it something that can be channeled, that spirits can be channeled into.
Or, or
maybe that's just something this fighter uniquely can do. Like a fighter can uniquely channel a spirit or the part of themselves into an object as if it were first stage.
Cool.
Like it just doesn't have to be first stage. Although in all of the stuff we say will be very first stage heavy, but if they do find a sword, they can still activate it.
Yeah. I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't have a first stage sword. Like,
sure, but especially because you're making swords and we just talked about it. So
But it's more that it's a load on the DM to know everything, every weapon that you interact with. They now have to know whether or not this is first stage. Or not.
Yeah. I think it's well, here's the other thing. Do we even say that spirits have to only whelm first stage objects?
No, we don't have to.
Well, what if it's this? Okay.
But I don't know that we ever have.
I don't think we have.
I think they can whelm any object, right?
We said, we just basically said technology. Because we've always talked about it in the context of like an electronic device, right? Something that needs power. And that's why they would be whelmed. So it might be, it might be a K-truck, or it might be, a vending machine, or it might be a, CD player or something like that. And so, I think when you said like a baseball bat, I was like, wait, what? But no, it's interesting because it's the material, it's not the function.
So then what if that you can, like, if I'm one of these spirit fighters and I get just a weapon that was forged in Obojima, my spirit can go into it and I can, do some cool thing with it. But if I pick up a first age object, it gets an extra thing.
It's additive.
But then you're still incentivized to use.
Yes, you're incentivized to use first aid, but you don't have to.
Yep.
I think it still just connects back to this thing, which is like, I feel like we have only ever thought about spirits whelming first stage objects, but it doesn't mean they can't whelm. Why? I think it'd be very let's for example, I'm gonna say at Chisue's Tea House I'm going to make a random spirit NPC, and they're a spirit that is whelmed teapot. And when they speak, the lid like opens up and steam comes out, and there's like no facial features, and everything comes through this one teapot. That's super cool, and I don't see why we wouldn't be able to do that. And so like if that is the case, then I feel like there shouldn't be I don't think there should be like a negative or a like, you know, a benefit of doing it in first stage or not. I think where the first stage comes in is you can now activate first stage. You personally can activate first stage tech and maybe get special effects from them that you normally wouldn't be able to do. But like if I had a baseball bat or a sword, they both have the same. If I make a special attack through it, they both gain the same benefit or something.
Okay.
Yeah, it's worth exploring.
Yeah. I think the other issue though with that comes with that too is if we give them, let's say you can do these special things, like let's say you have a boombox on your shoulder and you use that to activate certain things. Does that mean that they need to have boomboxes? Like, does this class come pre-built with objects that they need to go find and things like that?
Maybe there could be a list of things when you start. It's weird, it's a subclass. So, you know, you choose this at 3rd level, right? And so my suggestion was going to be maybe you have like a list of, you know, you have a list and you get to choose 2 of those things off the list and you just have them. What does that mean? Does that mean you just found them when you chose the subclass? You know what I mean? Like, when did you get them? And so, but the idea of them coming with it's great. The idea of them finding what I like about them not having it is now you're on the search, you're looking for it.
Yeah.
But does that mean you're now acting, your subclass is incomplete until you've now gone through this other hoop? Well, personally, just again as a player, it doesn't bother me.
No,
I like
love
that
it.
kind of stuff. But
I love it that, you know, you have a quest within your subclass.
Here's my question though, is what if I want to play the spirit fighter and I don't want any of this junk? Which is like, I'm imagining this character and in my head, I want them to be in a suit of knight's armor with like a sword and just like a shield and just have the special effects. Or I don't want like a tape measure or like
I think that's actually good. Because it means that the subclass, it has a broader appeal.
Right.
And if I want to play with first stage tech, I get to do that. This is something for me.
Right.
If I want to just play with the spirits and have a much more traditional fantasy feel, this is also for me.
Which means that all of the mechanics need to be able to be used with or without first stage check.
Right. And so what we could try to do is when we create it, there kind of, you know, it's one of those things like when you cast a spell. Adam, you're really good at this. You're always like, well, what does it look like? You know, when you cast a spell, or how does it manifest in this way? And you always, you know, you brought this to my attention, is that you could kind of make signature spells just with a visual or, you know, something. And so you can do that with this fighter. You know, if you're using first stage tech, it might be like, I have my boombox is the item that I key off of or whatever.
Right.
And it's like, yep, I always play my favorite track from, you know, whoever. And it's like, that's your going into battle music or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I play the 1985 Transformers the animated series soundtrack or animated
Every
movie
single time.
because, you know,
It's the only cassette I have.
that was the first one I ever bought.
Aw,
That's awesome.
how sweet and tender.
It's really good.
And it makes you go
That's
into
what
battle
introduced me
rage.
to Weird Al.
So with all of that being said, the you know, what actual mechanics does this spirit fighter have? Obviously they're imbuing objects with spirit tech, I think, or with spirit energy. They are whelming and activating machines. They are empowering weapon strikes, whatever your weapon ends up looking like. There's some amount of property to bring a weapon back in some capacity, which is, or we were talking about that.
Can you like hold out your hand and then just kind of manifest a spirit sword for like a turn that does something really cool?
You could have like a, you know, a thing.
That just is dope.
But you know,
So it just got me thinking, going back to, we talked about the Mjolnir thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's in the comic, you know, you have I forgot his name. It's Donald Blake. Somebody's going to correct me here. When Thor is not Thor and he's in his just human form, he has just like
Clark
a stick.
Kent.
Oh. He has a stick and that turns into Mjolnir. And so imagine if you have a baseball bat or you have some mundane object, but that can transform into the Mjolnir item, or what the you know what I'm saying, the equivalent of that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like when you're walking down, you've got your walking stick or something like that, and then a bunch of howlers jump you, and then you're just like, wow.
Then it turns into a gun.
Yeah. You feel lucky, punk.
That's good.
Oh man.
Yeah. You just become Dirty Harry.
Okay. So, that makes sense. I think there's some cool stuff there. How are we, so the core mechanic is infusing objects temporarily with this thing to gain certain effects. So that leaves a lot that allows us to do certain things. I think there's a lot of really cool things we can do there, where we can use this kind of spirit whelming thing to affect things out of combat. So obviously the main core ability is like kind of enhancing strikes or doing certain things with strikes. There's like a really cool concept of being able to like, what if I touched a treasure chest and like it sprung into life and like ran across the street or something like that. Like it's a really interesting way. Like animating objects is just like a core ability that you can do, or something like that.
Or what if in a battle I unleash it on somebody's shield, right? Or something like like I could use it aggressively.
They're like, stop hitting yourself.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like you do that.
I like that. I like some like animation style. Like I'm not trying to make a conjurer or summoner type thing. Like something that is like it lasts for a round. Like it like does a thing and then like falls limp. I like
it's the temporary stuff.
When you're imbuing your magic into something, it is not like a permanent spell or a spell that you're activating and concentrating on. It does a thing and then ends. Like I'm touching Ari's mouse and it like across the table and then like falls on the ground as a mouse again.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Okay, so I'm going to share this. We just talked. I'm going to share a character I made once.
Nice.
So what if? This is a weird one. What if the spirit kind of just had like a will of its own? And so, it's in this taking it a different direction, but it could just be the way you play it, right? Sometimes it's that. You know what that was?
That was a spirit.
That was a spirit.
Yeah. Some whelming the refrigerator.
We always react to these noises. No one can hear them on the podcast.
We're like,
okay, you'll hear that one.
I played a character. I believe they were. I was playing a sorcerer, but I was playing the sorcerer like a real kind of like clueless kind of dummy.
Yeah.
Who had fallen asleep in the woods for 100 years or whatever. They when they woke up, they just kind of had these powers, and so when people attacked, you kind of like cringe, get ready, and then of course like attacks would happen, like spells would just kind of go off, and just like defensively, just like things would happen.
That's fun.
And so, I can imagine if you are overwhelmed by the spirit, there might be things that just kind of automatically happen. They're just like reactive kind of defense protocols and stuff. That kind of
the spirit has its own thing. Like, even if you're not,
it needs you to survive. If you die,
that's pretty cool.
That's fun.
I like that.
I also like the idea for the temporary stuff. Like, imagine you could overclock yourself. Like, you could like take a hit on some level. Like you juice yourself with spirit power and you just like throw this thing, and then afterwards you've either taken hit point damage or your exhaustion. You get a point of exhaustion or something like that, where you can you can push it. You can push your spirit
to get farmer strength.
To get farmer strength.
You
can grow 2 more arms.
I think Corrupted Ranger potentially has something where you can activate the 14th level ability, and then you can activate it again by giving yourself a level of exhaustion. But I don't hate that mechanic, and I think it could be applied to many things. One thing I was thinking about, which I'm keying off of a location that you recently just made, which was the spine of Jamali. And this kind of concept of a spirit, an elder spirit existing in the spirit realm and affecting the material plane. What if like resting like if this fighter sits and stands in an area or rests like at a certain level, like there's an aura that kind of produces an effect or something like that. Like I imagine like you know, like when you're cold and everyone kind of walks around and like gets close to the campfire, like everyone's sleeping near the fighter when they're asleep because you heal an extra hit point or you gain some benefit
that's
when
cool.
you're near them, or even in combat, like that just like, you know, like maybe like plants are growing around you as you're fighting or something like you know, like just some effect that occurs similar to how a great elder spirit would affect the nature around them.
That's cool. You're like part of the elder spirit's domain, right?
Like you're creating a mini domain for yourself.
Neat.
Yeah, like when you use the power, then like plants grow, or use the power, and you know.
I just think that's awesome. Now, like the movie in my head, I imagine like wherever if your party's like traveling, and like every night, you know, you're making camp, and someone who's tracking you is seeing kind of like, you know, where you've been by all this growth that has come out. That's
almost
kind
like
of cool.
was it the nature spirit in Nausicaa where it's walking, and then in the foot prints there's stuff growing.
Yeah, it's growing and then dying. Yeah, I mean, you could potentially have like a domain that you stamp down, like you have a passive one that occurs, like maybe when you take short rests you gain certain benefits or things like that, and then you have like an active one that you could stamp down in the middle of combat or in the middle of a situation, and like as long as you're in it, an effect is occurring in there, and then if you get pushed out of it, it's gone, and then when you get back into it, an effect starts again. So it's like this thing that you put in the battlefield or in an area, and it stays there, and you moving in and out of it changes whether it's active or not.
That's cool.
Like an aura that is not based off of you but based off of a location.
Like you push a bit of spirit energy into the ground, and it creates like a, you know, like a sacred geometric pattern in the floor, or like plants grow, and if anybody who's standing in that receives that.
That's kind of cool.
That's neat.
There's something there. You know, there's something like I said, like Adam had written earlier, you know, we were talking about in this section, it's a great river spirit, and their domain is in the spirit realm, is affecting the material plane, and it's causing the clay in the riverbed to become magical. And so like, you know, that is where we're keying off of for this ability. You know, there's something there. I just don't know if it's a defensive or healing or utility or combat, like what kind of thing that might produce. I think one of the things I want to do with this fighter subclass is, is try to keep it a little simple, like not overcomplicate the abilities.
Yeah. Like having, like whatever it is, having it spirit themed, like tying to spirits. Like, so, because ultimately this is an elder spirit that's in there. So whatever that ability is, or whatever that power is that goes into the ground or that affects the fighter, it's somehow connecting back to that thing. So whatever that is, yeah, that's cool.
That's interesting.
Remind me though, I haven't seen it in a little while. Does this run into the paladin subclass at all?
So the paladin, it doesn't. Well, no. Like
I would look it up. My computer's dead.
Yeah. So the paladin, the paladin subclass has a list of tenets that they follow.
Yeah.
And they gain magic through the practice and following kind of like almost a religious way of these tenets, and then they utilize often a spirit or some great beast or animal as like the perfect example or embodiment of their tenets.
Okay, that's right.
So they might pick the river spirit, but they are not gaining power from the river spirit. Right. The river spirit just embodies their beliefs. And you can, as a paladin of the river, you might have a bunch of creatures. You might like the jellyfish is the perfect embodiment of the thing, and you have a jellyfish on your crest. And then a different river paladin might be like, oh yeah, no, the blue-backed salmon is the perfect embodiment, and they have the great elder spirit blue-backed salmon.
With this fighter class, because you are having a elder spirit and basically sharing your body, like, is there some kind of visionary quality to this? Like you can have a memory of Obojima, or you can have insight into things. And
I'll say this, I don't know if it should be an elder spirit specifically, because I think they're a little more rare, and to make it so it's like you'd feel very I feel like you'd be regarded in a specific way if you had like an elder spirit residing in you. I think just a spirit of great power in some capacity is residing inside of you. Or at least a part of it is. You could make it an elder spirit if you wanted to in your game, but I just think a spirit in general.
I don't want to complicate things, but imagine if like you have, earth, water, air, fire spirit, or like, because Obojima has all these different kinds of spirits. I mean, you could get a radish spirit like coming into your circle, but like
good.
something that themes it, or
I think you can theme it and add themes to
Maybe
it.
the radish knight.
Yeah. I was originally thinking that too. Like, what if you picked a spirit and that kind of affects the empowerment of your baseball bat or whatever? But I think with that, it adds perhaps some complexity that's not necessary.
Sure.
Like, cause then the theming needs to, all of the abilities need to be harkened off of like the elemental effect. And I think that's done very often in a lot of other mechanical,
I'm just trying to think of a way to like vary it up. So you could, have a bunch of different kinds of these kinds of fighters. And
so you
get
can
some
do
variety.
You can do it in, so there's like a lot of stories that are emerging here in my head. And a couple of them, like one of them is the bond you would create with the spirit, right? What happens if you and the spirit are not aligned in some way? Like in terms of the course of action you want to take? Can the spirit stop you from doing something?
So I don't think the spirit is like active
It's
or
just
alive
spirit
in you.
energy.
I think
It's just
I think
energy.
part of it is within you, and you kind of like have. But I don't think there's a commonality, nor do I think there's a conversation, because I think that is too close to Warlock now.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think they shouldn't be able to control you. Although if the DM wants to, maybe there can be like, for flavor, you could be like, as you go to strike down this thing, there's hesitancy in your arm, and you're like, this is probably the wrong thing, and now doing it, there's some, like, you should feel bad.
Can you remove it? Like, can something happen where the spirit can be driven out?
You are trying to cure all of my subclasses. Same with the ranger. You could.
It's the immediate question somebody's going to ask, right?
I'd say only you asking. No, I see.
I
what you
represent some percentage of the population.
I would say yes. Probably. I mean, you could if you wanted to play that storyline. I would say probably in the exact same way that, like, could I kill the god you worship as a cleric and would you lose all your it's like, yes, that thing could happen. You just have to deal with it in that moment.
I see those as okay. You can move on. I don't have to get into the philosophical discussion of the difference there. At least what I see there.
I think it's probably part of you. I don't know if I would say you could.
If you remove it, you kind of take yourself out.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like fusing with you. It's not just like, cool, it's not like somebody could perform an exorcism type thing and like that's it. It's
your energy now.
Okay,
you just have an extra gear.
Yeah,
Okay.
you've absorbed this thing. You're becoming one and the same.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's kind of what that makes sense to me, because like when I hear something like this is fused with you, like or you have a curse in some way. The first thing I think of story wise. Because if I know nothing else about anything, all I know is like, this is your character. Cool. What I know is this is a thing you can lose, right? Like,
Sure.
And so as a DM, that's something I want to play with and stuff. But that's always hard when I've chosen to build my character around the abilities that come with this. And so like messing with that is sometimes it's kind of a sacrosanct thing.
I think you are a unique DM that's like, how can I strip the power away from my players?
No, it's like, you want to apparel things that people care about. That's drama. At least that's when I play, that's what I want.
I'm a normal DM and I threaten their family like everyone else.
I know that the thing they put the most time into is the thing, on their character sheet.
Yeah,
That's what I'm going to imperil.
I aim for their pets first.
It's like
if you have Excalibur, I'm going after it.
It's like when Link goes to the special places where it's like he doesn't have any weapons anymore, and you're like, oh man, what do I got to do? I've got to go all back to basics now. So
Yeah,
brutal.
yeah,
it is brutal. Well,
how's the puck of time?
With that, the puck of time is puck of tired and is telling us to end this episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for watching. We will figure out whether the farmer or the spirit fighter makes it into the book.
Farmer.
There's one
all the
right
way.
answer.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to this extremely rambly and strange, disconnected episode of the podcast. You can watch less rambly versions of this on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon.
I liked this episode.
I thought this episode was good too. We went on an interesting ride.
It's
but
an
we got
adventure.
there.
Everyone's an adventure.
It's an adventure.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
This was Adam, Ari, and I'm Jeremiah, and we're incredibly grateful for you to come and watch along with us. We will catch you next time. And yeah, that's all I've got. All right. See ya.